Can I ask you a question? If I stopped you in the middle of your workout today, right between sets, and asked, "What are you training for?" How quickly could you answer? Not your workout, not today's class, not, "I'm trying to lose a few pounds." I mean, really, what are you building? Who are you trying to become? Because here's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. We spend a lot of time measuring our fitness. We count workouts, we track miles, we celebrate PRs. My watch can tell me my heart rate. It can give me a recovery score. It can even tell me if I had a drink last night. But it can't answer the one question that matters most. Am I becoming the athlete I set out to be? It can measure today. It can't measure direction. And somewhere along the way, it's possible to become incredibly busy without actually becoming better. Busy isn't the same as becoming. That sentence has been rattling around in my head for weeks. Because every year, somewhere around July, I catch myself asking the same questions. What have I accomplished? Where am I headed? What's working? What's holding me back? And maybe the hardest question of all, am I still on track? I usually ask those questions about my business, but this year I realized, why wouldn't I ask them about my body? Because your body deserves a performance review just like your career does. Fitness is often described as a journey, and I think that's true. Journeys require direction. Adventures embrace uncertainty. If you've been wandering through your fitness for the last 6 months, hoping you'll eventually arrive somewhere, it's highly likely you're on an adventure to nowhere. So today, we're going to press pause. We're going to perform a mid-year athletic audit, not to judge where you are, but to make sure you're still becoming the athlete you want to be. Welcome to Cue the Burn, where performance meets grit and recovery is just part of the show. I'm your host, Mark Lusk, manual physical therapist, former professional dancer, and lifelong athlete who's still chasing the fire well into my 50s. This podcast is all about the science, stories, and strategies that fuel high-performing bodies. Whether you're on stage, under a barbell, or navigating the grind of urban life, from injury prevention to mental resilience, we're diving deep into what it takes to stay strong, mobile, and ready for whatever role life casts you in. Cue the music, cue the lights, cue the burn. Let's go. Every January, we're surrounded by goal setting, New Year's resolutions, new training plans, new promises to ourselves. But somewhere around the middle of the year, something interesting happens. Life gets busy. Work gets busy. Vacations happen. Injuries happen. Motivation comes and goes. And before you know it, you're still showing up, but you're not entirely sure if you're making progress or just spinning your wheels. Today's episode isn't about guilt. It's about pushing harder. And it definitely isn't about chasing perfection. It's about something far more valuable. Alignment. Are your goals, your habits, your identity, and your body's current abilities all pointing in the same direction? Because if they aren't, no amount of hard work will get you where you want to go. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through a simple mid-year athletic audit. Not a fitness test, not a movement screen, and not a report card. Think of it more like sitting down with the coach you trust most and asking, how am I really doing? We'll look at 4 areas. First, your destination. Where are you trying to go? Second, your capacity. Can your body actually support the future you're training for? Third, your identity. Who are you becoming? And finally, your mindset. How are you talking to yourself about the process? By the end of this episode, I hope you'll have something much more valuable than another workout. I hope you'll have clarity. Because clarity creates confidence, and confidence creates action. So, let's begin your mid-year athletic performance audit. The first question in any performance audit is probably the simplest. Where are you going? What are you training for? And I don't mean I want to be healthier. Well, that's a good goal. But it's a little like saying you want to take a trip. Okay, where? The beach? The mountains? Another country? If you don't know where you're going, it's pretty hard to know which direction to walk. And I think a lot of us do this with fitness. We show up, we work hard, we sweat, we get tired, we track our workouts, but we never really stop to ask, what am I actually trying to accomplish? Maybe you want to run your first half marathon. Maybe you want to compete at a high rocks race. Maybe you want to keep playing tennis with your friends when you're 65. Maybe you want to dance at your daughter's wedding without worrying about your back. Maybe you simply want to be able to get off the floor without using your hands. Those are all valid destinations, and they require very different maps. So the first part of your mid-year audit is simple. Ask yourself, what am I training for? And then, is what I'm doing right now actually taking me there? Because you can work incredibly hard and still be headed in the wrong direction. You can spend 6 months getting really good at something you don't actually want. The question isn't, am I working hard? It's, is my work taking me where I want to go? So let's do a destination audit. Take a moment and ask yourself, what do I want to be able to do 6 months from now that I can't do today? Maybe it's something physical. Being stronger, faster, more mobile, more confident, able to do something you haven't done in years. Or maybe you realize you haven't actually chosen a destination at all. That's okay. That may be the most important thing you discover in this entire audit. You don't need a perfect 5-year plan. You just need to know what you're moving toward next. So ask yourself, what do I want to be different 6 months from now? And then, is what I'm doing today connected to that goal? Because once you know where you're going, you can finally start asking whether your current path is taking you there. The second question is a little more personal. Who are you becoming? Your destination tells you where you want to go. Your identity tells you who you're becoming along the way. For most of my life, I was a dancer. My body was my profession. It was my instrument. And it was constantly being evaluated by casting agents, by choreographers and directors, by other dancers, and of course, by me. Then I stopped dancing. For a while, I was in between. I was working as an executive assistant, sitting at a desk all day. I still went to the gym. I still wanted to look a certain way, but I didn't really have a clear picture of the athlete I wanted to become. I had left one identity behind, but I hadn't yet built the next one. Today, at 53, I'm a CrossFit athlete, and my goals are different. I want to be as strong, fit, and athletic as I can be. The aesthetic benefits are still there, but they're secondary. They're a bonus. They're not the goal. And that shift matters. Because the question isn't just, what do I want to accomplish? It's, what kind of person does that? What does the person who wants to be stronger at 53 do? They get up for the 6 a.m. workout. They pay attention to their nutrition. They meal prep. They seek out a running coach if they want to become a better runner. They make choices that are consistent with the person they're trying to become. So let's do an identity audit. Take a moment and ask yourself, who was I as an athlete 5 or 10 years ago? Who am I today? And who do I want to become next? Then ask yourself, what does that person do? What do they do on a Tuesday morning? What do they do when they're tired? What do they do when progress slows down? What do they do when they don't know how to get where they want to go? Because identity isn't something you announce, it's something you practice. And once you know where you're going and who you're becoming, the next question is, does your body have the capacity to get you there? So, you know where you're going. You know who you're becoming. Now, let's look at the engine, because your body is the vehicle that's going to get you there. And the question is, does it have the capacity to make the trip? I think about capacity in 3 ways. Mechanical capacity. First, is the engine sound? Are you dealing with pain that consistently limits what you can do? Are you avoiding movements? Are you modifying your training around something that hurts? Can you squat? Can you touch your toes? Can you rotate? Can you reach overhead? Can you perform the basic movements your goals require? If you are consistently limited by pain or movement restrictions, that's important information. Pain isn't always a stop sign, but it is a part of the audit. Second, functional capacity. Is the engine running efficiently? Are you getting stronger, faster, more skilled? Can you produce power? Can you move with agility? Can you perform the skills your goals require? Can you lift more, run faster, jump higher, change direction? Perform a movement today that you couldn't perform 6 months ago. This is where we start looking at the actual performance of the machine, not just whether it can move, but what it can do. And finally, endurance. Is there enough gas in the tank? Can you sustain the effort? Can you run farther, train longer, recover between efforts? Do you have the endurance to get where you're trying to go? Your watch can give you data about some of this. It can show you where you've been, your heart rate, your recovery, your pace, your training volume. It can help you see whether you're getting stronger, faster, or fitter over time. Data can show you trajectory. It cannot choose the destination. That's your job. So let's do a capacity audit here. Take a moment and ask yourself, is my mechanical capacity sound? Is my functional capacity improving? And do I have enough endurance to get where I'm going? You don't need perfect answers. You need honest ones. Because your current capacity is not a judgment. It's your starting point. And the better you understand where you are, the better you can decide what needs to change to get you where you want to go. And finally, we come to the part of the audit that may influence everything else, your mindset. What's happening between your ears that might be helping or sabotaging the journey? Because you can have a destination, you can know who you're becoming, you can have the physical capacity to get there, and still, the story you tell yourself can derail the entire process. Sometimes that story is loud. You know exactly what you're telling yourself. But sometimes it's barely a whisper. You may not even realize it's there, but somehow your confidence keeps getting knocked down. So ask yourself, what am I telling myself about what's possible? Are you constantly frustrated that you're not further along? Are you comparing your current body to the body you had 10, 20, or 30 years ago? Are you afraid of getting hurt? Are you ignoring pain because you think modifying your training means you're weak? Are you willing to be a beginner? Because sometimes the thing holding you back isn't a lack of strength. It's the belief that you're too old, too injured, too far behind, too busy, too inexperienced. And sometimes the story is the thing that needs to change first. So let's do a mindset audit. Take a moment and ask yourself, what am I telling myself I can't do? Is that actually true? Or is it something I haven't tried yet? What am I afraid of? Failure? Pain? Embarrassment? Starting over? Being a beginner? And finally, what would change if I stopped asking, can I still do what I used to do, and started asking, what am I capable of becoming now? Because you're not required to become the athlete you were at 25. You don't have to chase your old body. You don't have to recreate your old performance. You get to build something new, something that fits the body, the life, and the goals you have today. And that's the real purpose of a mid-year athletic audit. Not to look backward and judge the first half of the year, not to beat yourself up over the mistakes, but to look forward with better information and better intention, to see what is possible, to ask, where am I going? Who am I becoming? What can my body do right now? And what story am I telling myself about what's possible? Because once you answer those questions, you have something far more valuable than motivation. You have belief. And belief in yourself pulls it all together. That's the actual fuel in the engine. So that's the audit. Now, let's turn all of that reflection into action. In today's Burn Toolkit, we're going to keep this simple with 3 action items. Number 1, pick one destination. The first thing you need to do is choose one destination, not 5, not a complete life overhaul. 1. What do you want to be able to do 6 months from now that you can't do today? Run a 5K? Complete a high rocks race? Lift a certain weight? Touch your toes? Play tennis without pain? Keep up with your kids? Choose one thing and write it down. Because a destination you can see is a destination you can train for. Number 2, build the bridge. Now ask, what needs to be true for me to get there? If your goal is a high rocks race, you may need more strength, running, and conditioning. If your goal is to play tennis without pain, you may need to address a physical limitation that's been holding you back. If your goal is to become stronger, you may need a structured progression instead of randomly choosing workouts. Your destination tells you where you're going. Your capacity audit tells you where you are. The bridge is the work between those 2 points. So identify one gap between where you are now and where you want to go. Then ask, what is the next action I can take to close that gap? Not the entire plan, the next action. Number 3, act like the athlete you're becoming. This is the identity piece. Ask yourself, what does the person I want to become do? Then do one of those things. The future runner hires a running coach. The future high rocks athlete starts running consistently. The future strong person gets up for the 6 a.m. workout. The future durable athlete pays attention to recovery. The future athlete doesn't wait to feel like that person. They start practicing the behaviors of that person now. Because identity isn't something you announce, it's something you practice. Maybe you started the year with a goal. Maybe you've stayed on track. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've gotten stronger. Maybe you've been injured. Maybe life got in the way, and maybe you lost your direction. That doesn't mean the journey is over. It means it's time to look at the map again. Look at where you are. Look at where you want to go. And decide, what is the next step? Because you don't need to be the athlete you were 5 years ago. You don't need to have the perfect plan. You don't need to know every step between here and your destination. You just need to know whether the next step is taking you in the right direction. Athletes don't drift into resilience, they train into it. This week, ask yourself one question. Am I still on track? If the answer is no, don't beat yourself up. Don't throw out the entire plan. And don't wait until next January. Ask, what is the next step? Then, take it. I'm Mark Lusk at MVMT Physical Therapy, and this is Cue the Burn. If today's episode made you think differently about your own fitness journey, you can find movement tips, upcoming labs, and more at mvmtpt.com and by following us at MVMTPT on social media. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's determined to stay active for life. Thanks for listening. Until next time, move to live.